Lake of the Ozarks, a crazy world we're living in 2021. There's no doubt about it. I'm William Holtz with Lake TV, and it's time for Mic'd Up with, you guessed it, William Holtz, presented by our good friends at Hy-Vee in Osage Beach. Make sure you go see them this week. They got some great specials going on. And on today's podcast, we've talked about the upcoming election for Camden County on August 3rd, and you'll probably remember on June 30th, I had Camden County Sheriff Tony Helms in to talk about why you should vote yes. That interview was fairly popular, a lot of interaction from the community, and a lot of people that don't necessarily feel voting yes is the right choice on August 3rd. One of those individuals joining me here on the podcast, Neal Gist, right here from Sunrise Beach, Missouri. Neal, thank you so much for making the time and coming and joining us, man.
Thank you so much for having me, Will. It's good to be here.
Well, we're certainly glad, and the reason I reached out to you is your comment was, do vote no. We still need checks and balances, and without sunset, this is a dangerous thing. And so it was along those lines. We're going to touch on that. And before I have you field your comment on that and talk to us about why you feel it's important that people know the facts and would vote no on this, I did want to touch on real quick. You ran recently against Vicky Hartzler. So if you guys know this name or you like, I've heard that name, this is probably why. Tell us about that experience and running for office and exactly why not only you ran then, but it was important to you to get involved in this ballot issue.
Yeah, so I ran for the 4th District. It was 24 counties. So I had the privilege of getting to travel all over Missouri, meeting all kinds of different Republicans and constituents. It was an incredible experience. I was surprised with how much conviction there was in the conservative base, even in the establishment, who I had stigmas about at the time. Yeah. But so much of the Republican Party does really believe in the Republican platform and conservative principles. Yeah. And there is a shared frustration amongst not just the constituency, but a lot of the establishment about our representation's ability to effectively convey or deliver on those principles. But it wasn't enough to win the votes, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, though, it takes a lot of gumption to go out there and get involved, and you don't see enough of that in people in our generation and that are close to our age, that may be very intelligent, may have a thought or a belief, and they think things are wrong, and they just kind of sit there idly. That wasn't your course of action at that point in time, and you were involved in organizing, or you were part of a protest outside the Camden County Courthouse, and so you have recently, you kind of said before we came on, had this flame reignited to get involved, and it's because you care, you want justice, you want truth. And so that leads me to our next point. It's clear, based on your comment on August 3rd, you don't think voting yes for this sales tax increase for Camden County, which would be 0.25% in the Camden County area, would all go to the Camden County Sheriff Department. You don't necessarily think that's the best idea. So tell us exactly why you think maybe voting no is the right choice.
Yeah, so first I do want to say that I think it is appalling that our police officers are paid what they're paid here.
Yeah.
It's you don't have law for long without law enforcement. Yeah. And if we want to have the best law enforcement, we have to have the best incentives. Yeah. And the Lake of the Ozarks is already the best place in America. It sells itself. So all we need then is the best compensation.
Right.
And
that's not the case. Currently, right about $31,000 is the average pay for Camden County Sheriff deputies in the area, and that's the lowest in all surrounding areas. And as you know, very complex, big area. But so you definitely aren't. I want everyone to know, because he said it. He's not anti-law enforcement. I don't want people to get that idea. If anything, quite the contrary. You want them to have better pay. You don't think it's this sales tax increase.
That's correct, and we need to make it a priority. I find it equally appalling that we have Republicans right now who are proposing that we address this problem through a tax increase. It's like, okay, so supporting our officers is a Republican tenet, but you know what else are a part of our platform? 2 tenets there are lower taxes and balance the budget. So we are one of the wealthiest counties in the whole state. One of the wealthiest counties, over $1 billion valuation here. And as far as wealthy counties go, we have some of the lowest overhead. No big metropolitan amenities, no big public transportation. If anybody can afford to pay our officers the best, it is Camden County.
Without a tax increase.
Oh, 100%. And it's a matter of priorities. Are we scraping together some amount of money from our budget down here that's left for officers? Or are we paying them the best and then reallocating our funds appropriately from there? Well, it is up to the commissioners. They're in control of the budget. And so the real question is, why after 10 years, 12 years, why hasn't the presiding commissioner put this on the agenda? They have the power to fix this. They had the power to fix this 5 years ago. They could fix it tomorrow, Will. This is not an issue that we need to bring it to the ballot and have more taxes. This is a matter of us demanding that our Republican representatives actually uphold conservative principles.
Yeah, and so you're saying our current commissioners, they're mishandling the budget, is what you're saying, because there's definitely enough money there for our officers to be making what they deserve out of the Camden County budget. It's a rich county. There's a ton of money that's spent in here, and currently, to date, sales tax in Camden County is up almost 30%, so there's a pretty big influx. And I would think a priority for that would be going towards deputy pay and bringing on new deputies, correct?
100%. It's and the fact that hasn't been done, and it's imagine what it's like as a politician. You're the presiding commissioner, and okay, well let's pay our officers more. What do? Well, you have to reallocate funds from somewhere else. Well, you do that, and you're taking money from some contractor, from some department. You're making political enemies when you do that, and that's jeopardizing your seat of power, because now they're going to campaign against you. And so, we see this is exactly what happens in Washington, D.C. when, why they continue to fail us as Republicans there. It's just easier. Yeah. You neglect responsibility and accountability for the problem, and you pass that burden onto the taxpayers. And now if it fails and the police officers don't make more money right away, you get to say, oh, it was the constituency.
Yeah.
A total neglecting of responsibility. And the same goes for the sheriff, because he knows this. He can go to the commissioners and say, this is what needs to happen. If they say no, then he can go to the public and say, we need more money for our officers, and the commissioner is working against me. We should do something about it. But the good old boys club, you don't want to do that. You don't want to rock the boat.
Why would then, at this point in time, because when we had Sheriff Helms on, that wasn't a topic of conversation, wasn't the commissioners. It may have been my fault as, the moderator or as the interviewer that didn't ask that, but it was all about this tax. And if he knows that, why would he not be knocking on the doors of those commissioners every day of the week? And if he doesn't get the answer that he wants, why isn't that the course that Sheriff Helms has gone?
The establishment is really good at preserving its own power. And part of how you accomplish that is by going along with whatever everyone else is doing, and so it's easier. You try and pass this tax, you get the funding you need, you don't compromise on your reelectability, you don't upset anybody. If it fails, you're not accountable, it's the voters. But ultimately, look, this is really what our constituents here need to recognize, because I met a lot of Republicans who point fingers at Washington, D.C., and they go, these rhinos don't adhere to our principles. Understand that the temptations and the negotiation, the trade-offs that they're dealing with are exactly this, where they have to actually balance the budget and upset somebody and take funds from somewhere else in order to afford the things we need, or they can just increase our taxes. They can just borrow money, go into debt, inflate, whatever it is.
Kind of the broken system that our country has gotten itself into, the national debt it has, by any time we need an influx of money, instead of being more diligent with your spending, you go to the Federal Reserve and get further in debt. It's kind of the same concept just happening here at the local level.
Exactly. And if we look at the trajectory of the scale of government growing, the centralization of power and the loss of individual sovereignty, it wasn't one big swoop. It's these incremental decisions, incremental taxes, and it's always the same argument. It's just a little tax, or the liberal argument. If you don't support increased taxes for schools, you don't support our students and teachers. If you don't support increased taxes for medical care, people are dying on the street, and that's your fault. I'm hearing that same argument from Republicans. If you don't support a tax increase for our police officers, you don't support police. And that is nonsense. At some point, we as Republicans have to draw a line in the sand and say, I am principled. I will not compromise on those principles. I insist that the people that we elected to represent us actually hold true to the principles that they ran on.
Yeah.
And if we don't recognize that, then if you were in Washington, D.C., you'd be a rhino just like them.
Yeah, we should be able to get access to the overall budget, correct? And whether it was a sunshine law or it should be public knowledge, we can go in and we can look and then we can ask for answers. Because, I mean, that would be the route that we here, outside of voting no on this, can do. Because I've always wondered, if we are this incredibly rich county, why are our officers why is Miller County making more than Camden County? You know, why are their deputies making more when there's so much more money coming into Camden County than there is Miller County?
Right.
So can we do that? Can we put in a sunshine law and get the budget and look through that? I mean, would that be a way to see where they're spending and some of the things are going on and why the police officers and their budget or their salaries are getting overlooked and that's not a priority? Because you know better than anybody, one of the huge things that's happening here is good men are coming in and good women are coming in, getting a job with Camden County, taking advantage of the incredible training that's being paid by Camden County tax dollars, and then I don't blame the guys, but after they get their feet on the ground and then a job opens up for $12,000 more a year, 30 miles north, why wouldn't they take it? And so we're losing money to train them, and then they're going somewhere else. So you're saying the solution here would be we can't have a tax increase that doesn't sunset. That's dangerous. And Camden County and their leaders have proved to us they may not exactly be the best facilitator of funds. They may not be incredibly diligent in their spending. So we may, as a community, need to look at this again and say, maybe there's enough money in the budget right now where every police officer, every deputy could make an increased wage if we took this out of the budget.
Right. But ultimately, that's going to take a lot of work. And I know some of our commissioners don't really like to put in a full work week, and you've got to sit down and go through the budget line item. Here's how you do it. Every tax, every regulation, every ordinance, everything you go through systematically, one at a time, and you ask yourself, first of all, can we afford this? If the answer is no, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Second, is this constitutional? And Greg Hasty, if you do this process, have me there for that because he kind of struggles on this one. But if it's not constitutional, get rid of it. And then the third one is this an absolutely necessary role of government, of local government? And if the answer is no, get rid of it. And if we do that, we're going to find right away a lot of our budget opens up. Yeah. But it's going to take hard work, and it's going to take upsetting a lot of people and jeopardizing your seat of power if you're the presiding commissioner. So, he won't do it. Obviously, he's been in there for over a decade, and our police are making what they make. So we know he won't do it. So it's a matter of us taking the responsible approach and adhering to our principles and voting in somebody else next year who's going to get the job done.
And so and with the commissioners now, we've got James Gohagan, we've got Greg Hasty, and then, of course, we've got Don Williams. And are all three of those guys kind of in the same boat, or do you feel like James Gohagan is in a little bit different situation than the other two, and he's kind of fighting those two?
I've been really impressed with Commissioner Gohagan. He's independent-minded right away, did not go along with the good old boys club, and brought attention to the horrible situation of that new building that they bought. Mm-hmm. He's been advocating for conservative principles, and that's a tough thing to do for a politician. It's a majority rule in the commissioner's department. So we've got Gohagan in there. I have faith in him. But
Yeah.
We need one more, and that would be enough to see the renaissance of liberty and prosperity and conservative ideals here at the lake that the rest of the country thinks we are. We can actually make that happen.
Man, I'll tell you what, this is Neal Gist, and he is a local. He came from, of course, Houston, Texas. You've been here at the lake for 5 years. Hasn't taken you long to roll up your sleeves and get involved because you want to see this place continue to be the best place on earth. We need to do this more often, man. I'll tell you guys this, watching out there that watch this all the time. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to do some digging because I'll be quite honest. I was not as prepared for what you brought to the table, but I'm really glad that you did because I want to go do some digging, look at that budget, and see if we can't get some answers. Because if that is the case, if there's plenty of money in that budget and our Camden County commissioners are misappropriating those funds, we need to do something about that. And if our sheriff's not going to do something about that, and I'm not saying that is the case, but you bring up a great potential point right there. I want to find out about that budget and see where those dollars are being spent, and if maybe a tax increase isn't exactly the best route. Give me a couple of your other concerns. You said so the money is definitely there out of that budget. What do you fear happening if this sales tax does increase?
Okay, so as disappointed as I am in the commissioners, they are still an essential check and balance. The budget runs through them and is allocated from there. And what this proposal is to take the revenues from this tax and give it directly to the sheriff's department without limitations, without oversight. There's actually zero guarantee.
Would Jimmy Laughlin still have to sign off on anything they spend, or would they also take it out of the auditor's hands as well?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Because I know that Jimmy Laughlin, the county auditor, has to sign off on anything spent from the commission's office, and I assume from the sheriff's department as well. But that does sound dangerous. Meaning, so it's given directly to Sheriff Helms and the sheriff's department, and then there's no limitations what they can do.
Right, and they're campaigning on, where we want to give our officers more. Why isn't that in the language of the ordinance? Why aren't you saying this is to pay our officers this much? And they're not. They just want.
It's vague.
Yeah, they want to do whatever they want, and it's it's like we see this in Congress with, especially on the left, where they're frustrated with how incompetent they are, and so they want to get their way through executive fiat and circumvent them. It's like, just because we have an incompetent government body doesn't mean that the solution is to circumvent an essential check and balance. Right. The solution is to have better representation.
Yeah, and not take it away. Keep it there because it's incredibly important. Things get as dangerous as they are right now. They get really dangerous when you don't have those checks and balances in place. And so what you're saying is you really want to see somebody step up and run for Camden County Commissioner. You live in the right area. Could potentially be you.
I really want to, but my focus is fully on my family.
And that's a smart answer. I'm with you there, man. We're in a similar place. No, you're much older than me, of course. No, like a year older.
3 years, man.
Yeah, I know. I had to put it out there because I'll tell you, recently I bought a lottery ticket the other day, and they didn't card me, and I was like, okay, this is getting weird. I need to shave my beard again because I look like a 12-year-old without it. But hey, Neal, before I let you go, I'm going to give you an opportunity to look directly into that camera over there and talk to the people of Camden County and why this upcoming election is so crucial and why they need to go out and vote.
It is up to us whether or not we are a party of principle or a party of talking points. And the power really rests with us at the voting booth. If John Adams is right that we should always take the principled stance, even if we stand alone. And if we don't, we will continue the trajectory of big, bloated government that is antithetical to conservative values. So let's do something about our presiding commissioner, or just start showing up. I've observed him; he's quite pliable. So apply some pressure, maybe enough, and he'll actually do what he should have done 10 years ago.
Neal, thank you so much for your time. Certainly giving me a lot to think about. I appreciate you answering the call and getting involved because it's clear, unlike others that we've talked with that are getting paid on tax dollars, you have nothing to gain here. You're involved and you want your voice to be heard for justice, so I can certainly respect that and appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Will. It's great.
Absolutely, brothers. That wraps up this edition of Mic'd Up with William Holtz, presented by Hy-Vee. Thanks for watching, and we will keep you guys updated on this leading up to the election on August 3rd.